Hey guys, so in this video we're going to be talking about the Redline versus the Redline XR. The Redline XR is a Redline that's sold on radartest.com, and it gives you better performance than a standard Redline. It gives you longer range, it gives you faster responsiveness, and it also gives you fewer falses, all of which are really important. It's sold at a $100 premium over the retail pricing for a normal Redline, and so what we're going to be doing in this video is talking about the differences between a normal Redline and a Redline XR, and kind of what your options are and what I generally recommend as far as doing to really maximize the performance of the Redline. Maybe tweaking a normal Redline or purchasing the Redline XR. So if you take a look on radartest.com where they're selling these Redline XRs, you'll see that it says right on the web page that it's a custom program detector. And really the short version is it's a normal Redline that they change a couple settings, they custom program it, they go in and change a couple of the settings here in the detector to really maximize the performance. It's kind of like tuning your car without doing any hardware mods. You're not actually changing anything physically on the detector. You're not uploading any new software, you're not making any hardware changes, you're literally just changing the settings to really maximize the performance and reduce the falsing. That's all that you're doing. And if you purchase a Redline XR, what they're doing is they're pre-programming these settings for you so that you don't necessarily have to do it for yourself. And you know, some people that's a really great benefit. They may not necessarily know what the proper settings are. They may be, you know, if you do it wrong, you have a very real possibility of setting up your detector in a way where it's not going to alert to legitimate police radar. So it is good to know what you're doing. There's a couple alternatives that I'm going to show you to actually paying the $100 premium, and there's ways of actually getting this program detector without actually having to pay that premium, whether you do it yourself or you have somebody else do it for you for free. So we're going to go ahead and go over both options. So first of all, before we get into that, let's talk about some of the performance differences between a normal Redline and a Redline XR. Okay? So if you take a look on the page where these are being sold, there's a couple different test charts. The first one that we're going to look at has to do with the detector's range capabilities, and you'll see that there's three detectors compared. There's the Escort Max, there's the Beltronics Magnum, and the Redline XR. The Magnum and the Redline are actually almost identical detectors. One sold under the Escort name, one sold under the Beltronics name. They've got different cases, different sounds, but almost identical. They've got the same antennas, the same platform, the same hardware. The Redline does have a better amplifier, a low noise amplifier that will actually boost those weak signals. And so it is just on hardware alone going to give you better performance when it comes to sensitivity and detecting those weak signals really far away. So due to the hardware differences between the Redline and the Magnum, the Redline will give you better range. Now the Max has a different hardware architecture altogether and software. It does not give you the same range as what you'll get with the Magnum or Redline detectors just based on the antenna, or what we like to call the horn. It is not going to be able to catch and receive and hear radar signals as well as the Magnum or the Redline is, just based on the antenna itself. And so because of that, you're going to see that the Magnum and the Redline is going to give you better range. Now the Redline, as I mentioned before, it does have that better LNA, that low noise amplifier, so it is going to give you better range than the Magnum. In the test chart here, they don't show you the Redline versus the Redline XR. However, some of the differences that between the two detectors and the changes that you make will actually give you better range in the Redline XR than you will get in the factory stock Redline. So the Redline, even though it's not shown here, it does have a better sensitivity with the XR than the regular. The next thing that we're going to look at is the radar response time. And that has to do with how fast the detector will alert to really brief signals. There's two benefits to this. The main one is an obvious one. If there's a really brief burst of radar that's being shot, for a quick trigger, for example, an officer can just turn on his radar gun and turn it off really quickly. And he turns it on just fast enough to get a speed and then turns it off. And this can be used in a way to prevent some lower grade detectors from alerting. If they're not fast enough, there is a very real possibility that a detector could not alert and the radar gun can be clocking your speed, kind of like the idea behind pop mode. And a faster and more responsive detector can catch these quick trigger shots. So that is an important thing. The second thing has to do with, again, detecting signals at long range. If it's not a strong, clear signal, the signal can be kind of intermittent. You've got trees in the way, you've got traffic, the signal is really far away, so it's going to kind of come and go. And if a detector can catch those signals really briefly, that actually really helps to detecting those instant on shots. Maybe not that quick, but still instant on, or heck, even constant on. But instant on way at a distance, it'll help you catch those shots, maybe the rabbit ahead or traffic ahead being shot before you're in range. It's really important to have a really responsive detector. So let's go ahead and take a look now at these test results. And here we've got the Max again, and in this one we've got the regular Redline and the Redline XR. The main things that we're going to be looking at are, in this chart, we've got K-band and then two different Ka bands, 34.7 and 35.5. The Max looks like it's got some filtering built in, and it's really slow responding on K-band, which is kind of weird, to be honest. Maybe TSR is turned on by default. I don't know. I'd have to see. But you'll see that the Redline and the Redline XR, the XR is faster on K-band. And what we're going to do there, the reason that's the case is a default Redline ships with TSR turned on. What that is for is it introduces a long delay on K-band alerting. And TSR, if you're not familiar with it, stands for Traffic Sensor Rejection. On the highway, there's these sensors that monitor the flow of traffic for things like updating maps that you can find online to see how much traffic is going on. Well, those sensors can be radar-based, and in certain areas, if you have those, they will periodically trigger your radar detector. You can filter those out, but doing so is done by introducing a delay on K-band. And you're going to say if a signal is longer than what these traffic sensors will shoot, chances are that's probably a police radar gun. So we're going to have to wait to see if the signal is longer than a traffic sensor. And doing that will slow down the detector because it has to filter by having this extra delay. So what we do by turning TSR off, that traffic sensor rejection, we turn that filter off, it's actually going to speed up K-band performance on the Redline. And so if you take a look at the Redline versus the Redline XR, you'll see improved K-band responsiveness. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Ka-band. Both 34.7 and 35.5, you'll see performance and responsiveness is improved on both bands. There's two reasons for this. Number one of the main changes that's been done is that RDR is turned off on the Redline XR. That's a feature available on the Redline, and what you do is you just go in, you turn off RDR, and it will speed up how long it takes for the Redline to actually alert to a signal. And in a nutshell, what RDR is for, it stands for Radar Detector Rejection. It's special filtering that's designed to prevent falses from leaky radar detectors such as Cobras. And the way that it works is if it detects a Ka-band signal, it will do another full sweep to see if this signal is coming from a police radar gun or from a leaky radar detector. Now, doing this takes time to do this additional sweep. If you disable that filter, you're going to, number one, get more falses, but number two, you're going to be getting much faster responsiveness because it doesn't have to do a whole nother sweep all over again. So by disabling RDR, we're going to be getting better responsive time. Now, the other one is going to be band segmentation. And what's going on with band segmentation is Ka-band is really, really, really wide. There's a lot of frequencies there that we're searching. It's like 2,600 megahertz. It's a huge range of frequencies. However, legitimate police radar is typically only on a really small range of frequencies. So what we can do is we're going to tell the detector, hey, I know there's only a couple frequencies where police radar is going to be. Let's ignore everything else and only scan those frequencies. So what it does is it makes the full sweep of all frequencies much faster, and it spends less time scanning unnecessary frequencies. So by doing that, you're going to speed up detection because it takes a lot less time to go through all of the frequencies that it's searching. So a combination of turning off RDR and turning on band segmentation, those two are in combination going to help increase the responsiveness of the detector. And so now that we've got that established, if you take a look back here at the test charts for responsiveness, you'll see that Ka band for both 34.7 and 35.5 is going to be improved because we've done away with that RDR filtering, that delay to scan again for detectors, and we've also decreased the amount of frequencies that we're scanning for by enabling band segmentation. So with the combination of those two features, we're going to find improved responsiveness on Ka band. So now the third one that we're going to be looking at is going to be falsing. And it has to do with driving around and detecting false alerts from, like I mentioned, leaky radar detectors or gas stations or grocery stores, speed signs, different things that emit radar but are not police radar. And there's a couple things that we can do. So let's go ahead and take a look at the test chart here and see what's going on, and then see what kind of changes we'd have to make to the Redline to create those changes in the test results. So let's take a look. In this chart, we've got the Max, the Redline XR, and the Redline. So as you can see, the Max and the Redline both have some X-band falses. X-band is not really used in most of the country. There's a couple places like Ohio and New Jersey and a few other places here and there where X-band is still in use, but in most places X-band is not used. So what you can do is you can disable X-band altogether, and you'll get no false alerts on X-band because your detector's not alerting to it. And if you take a look at the difference between the Redline XR and the regular Redline, you'll see that X-band falsing completely goes away. Disable X-band, no more X-band falses. The Max will actually learn X-band stationary falses from like automatic door openers, and it'll actually over time filter those out. But with this particular test, it was most likely done with a brand new Max that hasn't had a chance yet to filter out the X-band falses. So kind of a good FYI. Over time, that X-band falsing will go away with the Max, even if you have X-band on. But anyways, so that's X-band. Next one, we're going to take a look at K-band. The reason that K-band falsing is going to be reduced between the Redline and the Redline XR is going to be setting it to auto mode. By default, the Redline ships in highway mode. This gives it maximum sensitivity on all bands, all the time. This is what Escort recommends in the manual. This is how I run the Redline, and this is what I typically recommend is running in highway. Now, if you enable auto mode, this is going to engage some extra filtering that's going to help filter out falses on K-band and X-band. And so what you can do is if you switch it from highway mode to auto mode, you got highway mode, or change it to auto, it's going to enable some filtering, like I said, in the detector to filter out a lot of those falses. So just making that change alone, you'll see that the falses on K-band fall quite a bit. And all that is just pressing this button here. So this isn't complicated stuff. We're just changing the settings on the Redline. Now the last one is going to be Ka band. And if we take a look, in this particular test, you'll see that there was no falses on Ka band on the Redline or the Redline XR. Remember how I mentioned earlier that in the sensitivity test, or whichever one it was, about RDR, where we actually disabled the filtering that helps the detector filter out those false alerts? We're going to disable that feature because it improves responsiveness and sensitivity pretty tremendously. It's a big deal. That's a huge impact by disabling RDR. So you'll definitely want to do that. Now the trade-off is that you are going to get rid of that filtering, which could introduce false alerts from leaky radar detectors like Cobras. Now, the solution to that is when you engage band segmentation, we're going to be turning off certain frequencies where those detectors like to false. So around 33.6, 33.7 gigahertz or so, you won't find legitimate police radar typically, but you'll find a lot of falses. That's segment 1. I was driving today, I found some falses around 35.4 or so, 35.3. If you get rid of those, you'll also help get rid of falsing, and that would be, what, segment 7 or so? So what we're going to do is engage only segments 2, 5, and 8. That's where police radar is, and it's going to disable the frequencies where falses like to happen. So engaging band segmentation in this way can be done to not only speed up the detector and give you better range, but also help with false alerting. Now it's not shown here in the test because you just didn't happen to have any Ka band falsing on the test. Okay, so be it. You know, it's a short test. Great. And so if you disable certain segments, that will also help with Ka band falsing, which is not shown again on this test. So there you go. Those are the changes that you're going to make. We're going to be disabling X band. We're going to take TSR and turn it off. We're going to set it from highway to auto mode. We're going to turn RDR off. And we're going to enable only segments 2, 5, and 8. And that's all it takes to turn a normal Redline into a Redline XR. That's literally it. If you read on the forums, you'll find, I mean, this is confirmed through Escort. This is what's said right there on their webpage. And all they're doing is just programming some of the detectors for you, so that or some of the features for you. So if you don't know what you're doing, or you prefer to just have it plug and play, great, you can do that. So let's go ahead, actually.
Powering down.
I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the process of programming it. So we're going to set it.
Factory settings restored.
Okay, factory settings restored. So we went ahead and set it back to factory defaults. So you can see now it's on highway, and everything now is back to factory defaults as if it was a brand new Redline. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do now is program this detector. Now that we've seen the test results and seen what the differences are, and then how to actually accomplish those changes, we're going to go ahead and implement those changes now here on the Redline. So let's do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn from highway mode to auto mode. This is going to help with a lot of those K-band falses in town. Next, we're going to go ahead and go into the program settings.
Preferences.
Okay.
Pilot brightness. Alert power on meter option. Auto mute voice. Bands. Default settings.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adjust the bands.
X band on.
Turn X band off.
Off.
Okay. And this button here will now cycle through the options.
K band on.
Or if you press and hold, it'll change the option.
Ka band on.
So we're going to turn Ka band off.
Off.
Ka super wide off. And now this will open up the possibility of adjusting the individual segments. So we're going to turn segment 2 on. Okay. Segment 5 on. And segment 8 on. That'll cover 33.8, 34.7, and 35.5 only.
Pop detection SW laser of TSR on.
We're going to turn off TSR to disable the K-band delays
Off.
and make it more responsive on K-band. And then finally, we're going to disable RDR, which is going to give us better range and better responsiveness on Ka-band. This is the main difference right here, RDR, between a Redline and a Redline XR. This in combination with the band segmentation, when we enabled only segments 2, 5, and 8, that's going to be giving us the majority of the performance benefits between a factory Redline and a Redline XR. So that's really all it takes. So if you want to get a Redline XR, as you can see, you can program it yourself in this way. It's super easy. It takes a minute or so. It's really easy to do. If you're the type of person who you want it to be just totally plug and play, and you're not very comfortable with, changing detector settings yourself, that's okay. You can contact Escort and let them know, hey, can you disable RDR and enable segments 2, 5, and 8 for me? Can you set my detector up like a Redline XR? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Call them up, they'll do that for you, and it's absolutely free. They will program it to be exactly like a Redline XR, and you won't have to pay that $100 premium. Alternatively, you could support one of the vendors such as bestradarDetectors.net or speedcountermeasures.com. Both are great guys. They'll give you great customer service, and they can really help you out and answer your questions. They're both good distributors, and they can also pre-program a detector for you in this way if you contact them and let them know that you'd like a Redline set up in this way. Just say, hey guys, I want Chad at Speed Countermeasures, SCM, or Tom at Best Radar Detectors, BRD. Contact either one of those guys, and they can also get it set up for you in this way. So it's really easy to do. So whether you want to do it yourself or you'd like to have a pre-programmed Redline, there you go. That's how to get a Redline XR for free, essentially, right? Not have to pay the premium. Have somebody else do it for you for free, or you can do it yourself with any Redline. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and go over the differences between the different types of red lines. You'll find there's a normal red line, there's the BS-RDR red line, there's the Redline XR, there's Australian red lines, there's all these different versions. So let's actually explain really what's going on between the different red lines. So the red line itself was released from Escort in 2009. There are no international versions of this detector. There are no other versions of this detector. Some other detectors, there are international versions of that actually have different features and options that are not available on the American versions, like the 9500iX, the 9500Ci, the Passport Max. There's a couple of them actually that do have international versions, the STIR Plus, the RX65. There are some detectors that have international versions that actually are different than the American versions. The Redline, this is not the case. There are only two quote-unquote real different versions of the Redline. There's the original version that came out in 2009, which did not have the ability to disable RDR or enable band segmentation. Because of this, it was a little bit sluggish, and it got this nickname of being Sleeping Beauty, because it was slow to respond, and it would sit there and just take a while to alert. In 2013, Escort released this new firmware, which would then give you the ability to tweak RDR and band segmentation. And this was huge because it definitely improves performance. It was a huge, huge update for the detector. So this was great news, and we are like, thank you so much, Escort. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is great news. What a Redline XR is, or actually before we get into that, this firmware update, when it came out, if you take a look at the Redline, you'll see there is no USB port on the detector. There's nothing on this side, and this side only has a power plug and an audio headset plug. So there's not actually a USB port to plug it into your computer and update it. So the way you had to update it actually was either send it back to Escort, and you pay for shipping, but it's otherwise free, and they would update your detector. It was like 14 bucks just for the shipping. Alternatively, if you had Escort Live, you could plug it into your phone, and over the internet, your phone would actually download the firmware update, and then over Bluetooth, update your detector remotely. And this was also totally free. This feature came out about a year ago or so. This is now late-ish 2014 when I'm shooting this video. And so this has been out for a year. And so if you've bought a Redline recently, chances are it's already going to have this firmware preloaded, so you don't have to bother with updating it. So those are the three ways of getting this newer version of the Redline with band segmentation and RDR. And we call it for short the BS-RDR Redline. Not that that's that short, but you know. So that's the other version of the Redline, the one that has this newer firmware that's available from Escort for free on all Redlines sold all over the world. That's it. There are no other versions of the Redline. The Redline XR is simply a version of the Redline where they have pre-programmed a couple different settings into the Redline. They've called it something a little bit different. They've marketed it in a way where it's being sold as if it does have better performance than a normal Redline, which is true. It doesn't actually use any different firmware than what's available on any current Redline available worldwide. So the Redline XR firmware is not different than the normal Redline firmware. There's also an Australian version where they take the Redline and they put a different sticker on the box, I think, and they sell it in Australia. It is a little different there. I mean, down under, things usually are marked up, and if you want the warranty, you have to buy it from an Australian dealer, and it's a little bit different. But fundamentally, the detector itself is identical to what you get here in the States or anywhere else in the world. So really, that's it. It's not any different than any other detector. You've got the original Redline, and you've got the BS-RDR Redline. That's it. So if you'd like to get a Redline XR, I would recommend just doing it yourself, or contact Escort, Best Radar Detectors, or Speed Countermeasures. Let them know you'd like the detector programmed this way, and they'll do it for you absolutely free. Yeah, that's it. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. You guys who've bought Redline XRs, cool, you've got a great performing Redline. Congratulations, it's awesome. Anybody else who paid normal price or whatever, you know, you got the same detector. Just program it the way that I've described, and now you've got an excellent performing Redline that's going to give you better range, it's going to give you faster reactivity and responsiveness, and it's going to be giving you fewer false alerts. That's all that it takes. So there you go. If you have any questions, post some comments, down below, subscribe, all that good jazz. And that's a look right there at the Redline / quote unquote Redline XR. Thanks for watching.